And there we go, staying level-headed, staying calm in the face of this kind of dump has proven to be exactly the correct course of action once more, as Bitcoin has found support from the exact same level that I was warning you guys could really, help Bitcoin, kind of get right back up to where it was before, and we have moved up very quickly. Now, this is actually one of the very specific things I spoke to you about in the previous video. Those of you that are subscribed are going to know a lot about this. I was talking about how Bitcoin needs to get the recovery quickly in order for us to see that this might actually genuinely recover. The longer it takes to recover, up to a point, it can definitely indicate that the market is still quite weak. But we bounced up really quickly, and that is a strong sign, and we are right now battling this resistance again at 26.7. So this is going to be an interesting area to watch, and what I really like is if we do just kind of zoom out and, remove a lot of the noise from this chart, we are continuing. Obviously, we haven't seen the price action update on this chart yet. We still are down at 25.7. The BLX chart only updates daily, only once a day. But we have now managed to get a bounce off the bottom line here, and so with our really kind of long-term trend that we're in, we're still doing nothing other than continuing to confirm that we are still in this really bullish pattern. The fact that we're responding so well to support levels that we have already defined for quite some time is an incredibly strong sign to show us that this market is still in a good place. And what I really like is a lot of people are now starting to lose that. The news yesterday, which I completely glossed over because it's completely fucking irrelevant, was that Binance, Coinbase, maybe a few other characters have been hit with some fines by the SEC. Fair enough. We know the US government loves to give out fines, and especially in the finance industry. I don't really care about that stuff, and clearly the market doesn't either. One of the big things I was warning you guys about yesterday was that this kind of thing for crypto, if it's isolated to crypto, if we get a crash and it only happens in crypto, while traditional finance continues to perform incredibly strong, which again, you can trade using the link to BingX in the description down below. You have access to all of these markets with leverage as well and without KYC. Huge offer, well worth checking out. Pause the video here, check this out and come back. Also Bybit, up to 30k in bonuses, and OKX up to 60k in bonuses. You got some crazy things available to you right now. But what I was warning you guys about is that if a move, if a crash is isolated to just crypto and it doesn't happen in traditional finance, well, one of the things we know about crypto is that, bad things happen and we forget about them really quickly. And that has already happened here, which is absolutely beautiful. But the discussion we need to have now about where this market could go from here is, are we going to find resistance? Because if we find resistance here, then we're probably going to continue to fall back down, and that would not be good, right? We want to see that areas like this are not problematic for the market. Previously, we were able to get back above it fairly easily, and the most recent time, we did have a little bit of resistance, but we still got back above it. So if we're able to do that now, honestly, this could be the shot for Bitcoin to break out. And the only thing that I'm really, really annoyed by is that the fear and greed index is not getting better. The long and short ratio. Fear and greed index is pulling back, which is absolutely beautiful. But look at the long and short ratio. This is, if I'm not mistaken, the craziest, most fucked up long and short ratio I've ever seen in my life. And that is just hard to digest. That is hard to understand and hard to wrap my head around. And it's the only thing that I think is going to continue to cause problems for Bitcoin. We've got a really good setup now. We've come back down to test support. We bottomed out at 25.4, and we know that our critical area of support was 25k anyway. So we've done incredibly well as far as correcting, right? I mean, we've fallen down to some incredibly strong levels. We've also now recovered back above our 200-week moving average. If we take a very quick look at that, just to show you where the 200-week moving average is on this chart right here, this orange line represents an incredibly strong area of support, and we've recovered back above it. And in fact, one of the other things that I very specifically spoke about in the previous video was the weekly candle, and if we take a look at this, this is incredibly strong, guys. What we've had here with this weekly candle is the same weekly candle that we produced back here. And this is what I actually said I would love to see Bitcoin produce, is a candle where we trade all the way down here, but the price gets rejected and travels all the way back up. It's one of the strongest signs of a bullish market, and the last time we produced this, we shot up with one of the biggest weekly candles we've seen in a very long time. We have now done the same thing at the very bottom of our support range within a falling wedge, which is inherently extremely bullish. Again, like for me, I have just struggled to be bearish with the rest of the people in this space lately, because I'm still seeing all of these signs that are actually really good. I'm seeing that we're taking the elevator up and the steps down. I'm seeing that we're jumping up, we're shooting up, and then we're slowly sliding down. This is one of the biggest telltale signs of a strong uptrend. You take the elevator up and you take the staircase down. It is a very, very good place to be, and we're continuing to form the same things that I want to see. Now, I have to make a very important note on the weekly candle here. This is the weekly candle, right? And today is a Tuesday at the time of me recording this video, so there's a lot that can happen. There is another 5 days and 5 hours on this weekly candle here, and that's a really long time for things to go wrong. And I'm not going to pretend that, you know, we're in a rosy place either, you know, because the fact of the matter is that, you know, within these next 5.5 days, really anything can change. And if we do take a look at, you know, kind of some of the things that we might be dealing with, again, you know, being below resistance is not a good position to be in. You know, we do still have this area to battle, and it has been an important area for quite some time on this chart. So if bears are able to get a little bit more strength from here, it wouldn't be a huge challenge for them to drive the market down once we get to this level. That's already happened, right? If you take a look at the minute time frame, it's almost like market manipulation, the way the price just stopped right here. But if this does turn into one of these sideways ranges that dump down, and this would be so typical of Bitcoin, yeah? Let me just show you a bigger example of that right here. We're so intimately familiar with how this kind of thing looks like for Bitcoin. If we're about to produce the same thing to the downside now, then that would definitely strengthen the position of the bears, because what it means is that on this kind of short-term time frame here, we're forming our first bounce, but we're not actually able to recover any resistance areas, so we're not getting back in the game. We really need to get back above this yellow line, in my opinion, because from what I've been telling you guys, the bulk of the resistance isn't even here. The bulk of the resistance is where we got rejected already. It's where I entered a short position, but because I was being stupid, I actually closed that short position, which, I mean, that, you know, at this stage, this would have made me quite a lot of money, but I just got cold feet and I wasn't happy to stay in that position. It happens sometimes, completely fine. Obviously, I'm not the best trader in the world. I did pull a really nice profit here, you know, but I make mistakes all the time, and honestly, that's one of the best parts about being in the VIP group is it's very real, it's very unfiltered, and it's very grounded. I mean, you're seeing how my analysis, which if you enjoy it, you know, is obviously going to be quite interesting. You're seeing how that analysis translates into trades inside of this group, and also how, you know, I'm navigating the same kind of problems that we all deal with. You know, that's been incredibly useful for many of you guys. Many of you guys have done so well inside of this group, and you can jump inside if you haven't done so already by following these steps on screen, getting those exchange bonuses as well. Always worth doing, especially at times like this in this market here. But this resistance level is going to be the level to beat from what I'm seeing right now, and if we do take a look at some of our key indicators, we can start to get an idea of where the resistance is with these indicators as well. Yeah, so on the 4-hour time frame, we don't really have anything here. There's nothing really that I want to focus on too much. On the 4-hour EMA ribbon, we are starting to face some resistance here, and the reason that I'm starting to pay attention to it is because we've now got a spread, right? And a spread is quite simply when you can see each individual line. Over here, we don't have a spread. You can't make out each line. Over here, we do have a spread, and when we have a spread, it's typically more reliable than when we don't have a spread. So we are starting to battle some momentum resistance here on the 4-hour time frame. On the daily time frame, it's the same image, and this is where it's a little bit more concerning. On the daily time frame, it has already been somewhat problematic for Bitcoin, and that could definitely continue to be the case if we do get a little bit higher. And this is what I really want to highlight to you as far as the challenge that Bitcoin has ahead now. You know, for Bitcoin to get back up to, you know, 30K and so on, it does have to break a good number of resistance levels, and one of the biggest ones, one of the most problematic ones, is right here with the VPVR. See, if we zoom in just a little bit more and we throw the VPVR on this chart, we can actually start to see very quickly that there are a lot of areas on this chart that are problematic for Bitcoin, and we are at the first one right now. And the problem is that if we clear this one, we have another spike right here, and if we clear this one, we have another spike right here, and this is actually the biggest spike on the chart right now. So this is a really big deal, because each of these spikes represents resistance on this chart, and it's done so incredibly well so far. You can see how, I mean, this is exactly where the price was rejected, and granted, The spike got a little bit bigger when we traded there because we traded there, but we already knew that there was resistance all up in this range, and that is exactly where this rally ended up coming to an end, right? We formed this rally, and look at where the spike happens. This is exactly the same price level that Bitcoin tops out at and then trades lower. So this is still resistance, and as a result, this is still critically important to pay attention to. Bitcoin has to recover these levels. Bitcoin has to get above the $28,200, $28,500 level in order to show us that it's in a strong position. Right now, we are continuing to slide down. We're continuing to fulfill this bullish falling wedge pattern, which is beautiful. You know, with these yellow parallel channels, I love it. This is exactly what I want to see. It makes me super happy that we are continuing to correct, because the only way that we can rally up with strong uptrends is if we have very healthy pullbacks like this. So this is great. But on the shorter term time frame now, we need some progress. We need to do something with this. And so far, we're not seeing that yet. So this is something I'm going to continue to watch and see if there are, some opportunities opening up here. And like I said, with all the opportunities available in the market, not just with Bitcoin, but with traditional finance on BingX, there is a lot to get yourself busy with, which is very, very cool, because me, personally, I wanted to trade these traditional finance markets for quite some time. Apple should actually be quite interesting, because they had their WWDC, I think, just yesterday with the new Vision Pro headset. That was super, super cool. But we are actually seeing Apple stock drop, so that's interesting. Doesn't really make much sense, but tradable on BingX, which is super, super cool. If we take a quick look at traditional finance, we're not seeing anything huge here. This just looks like consolidation to me. We've set some brilliant highs. We've gone up to some really, really good levels, and to me, it now looks like we are just consolidating, potentially getting ready for another leg up. The dollar looks like it's in a somewhat similar position too, so there's a little bit of uncertainty here. If the dollar continues to rise up, typically that's going to be problematic for Bitcoin, so on and so forth. You guys have heard that a million times, so I'm going to be watching this to see what happens. Again, if we get a little bit higher, we still have resistance, so I'm not too worried for the dollar, but the really good news is that the dollar has been trending down. The good news for investors is that the dollar has been trending down for quite some time, and we've found support and we've moved up. So essentially we've got all this gravitational energy here ready to pull the dollar back down, and Bitcoin's in a pretty good position if that happens, right? I mean, if the dollar drops, that's typically where we expect Bitcoin to start shining, and Bitcoin's still sitting at $27,000. So that could easily be the catalyst that pushes Bitcoin back above $29,000. So I'm definitely going to be watching this quite eagerly to see how this plays out as well. But again, we're forming all the right signs. It's very obvious that people are just gonna, they're getting lost in the tumbled dryer, of what's going on. Like you're just, I don't even know if that made any sense, but that people are just kind of, they're getting lost in the hype. I mean, the price drops a little bit. There's some news on Twitter, and then everyone just kind of loses their mind. But, if you were here yesterday and you were watching my video where I was telling you guys that I don't care about what happened, and the market's probably going to forget about it super quickly anyway, because of, the real numbers that, are not manipulated. Well, obviously, probably everything is manipulated, but not nearly as much as news headlines, and not nearly as much as what do you call it, bodies of the US government. Obviously, you just can't, rely on the information you're getting from these things as much as you can rely on these numbers. And if you were just relying on these numbers as I was yesterday, then you'll know that this was nothing to be worried about. And the only thing it's done, unfortunately, is fuck our long and short ratio even more. But what I can tell you with a big smile on my face is that when things get this crazy, they correct. And when they correct, well, the last time this happened, I made a lot of money. So, it opens up a lot of really nice opportunities in the markets to trade. And that's basically what we're at right now. It's almost like a slingshot. We're pulling that slingshot back, and it will release. It always releases. It always has to, and it does typically bleed straight into extremely exciting, profitable trading opportunities. So definitely something which I think is very, very important to pay attention to right now as we go on in this market. So there you go. I hope you have enjoyed this one. You know what to do. If you have, hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff. And I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.